Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you are a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Hi, I'm Denise Thompson, Managing Partner for the DiJulius Group, and I'd like to welcome you to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DiJulius. John's guest for today's episode is Dr. Paul Bizjak. Dr. Paul is a serial self-experimenter who tests success and wellness theories in an effort to help others live their best life possible. He's worked and researched extensively to deconstruct the healthiest, happiest, and most successful people on the planet, finding the answers in a blend of ancestral wisdom and modern technology. In today's podcast, you'll hear from Dr. Paul about what it means to be a self-experimenter. You'll also hear how to remain positive and focused regardless of what's happening in the world around you. Dr. Paul's opinion of COVID-19, which probably differs from what you're hearing on TV, and what you can do to prevent or reduce your risk of becoming infected. We also get personal and find out how he overcame personal struggles, including the tragic loss of his wife. Plus, you'll want to stick around to hear his single best biohack. And now, here's the host of the Customer Service Revolution podcast, John DiJulius.
Hello, revolutionaries. Welcome to another episode of the Customer Service Revolution. I am John DiJulius, Chief Revolution Officer, and I am really excited about our guest today, Dr. Paul Bizjak. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Dr. Paul is a very successful entrepreneur of multiple businesses, and he's a good friend of mine, and I've never told you this. Well, I don't think I've ever told you this, Paul, but I have compartments of experts I go to for business, like listen to the world renowned and, business, motivation, all these things. And I got 3 for health, physical, mental, emotional wellness that I'm religious to. I listen to their podcast or I'm reading their weekly blogs or anything they produce. And it is Tim Ferriss, Tom Bilyeu, and Dr. Paul Bizjak.
Oh, that's cool, man. I appreciate that.
I really like, what you're doing and what you're about.
Good. And I like those guys. I mean, I listen to their stuff too. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
So no, I appreciate that. That's good.
So tell our listeners what, a little bit of your background, your story.
I started practice 22 years ago, right out of school. Was super excited to get started. We run a kind of a straight chiropractic office. It's a funny story. When I got started, we were just talking about the napkins, jotting things down, and how you, before you ever started, just jotted ideas down and thoughts, and that's the way I was. I just couldn't wait to get into practice, and so couldn't wait to get out of school, couldn't wait to get into practice. When I first started, it was funny because you take your national boards, you take your state board, and then you have to wait 2 or 3 months. So I was itching to go. I wanted to start practice, but I had to wait for my license. So I was living at my parents' house in Aurora, and I started to see people out of my bedroom just to maintain the art of the care we're given and get used to my computer system. And it was funny because...
How long ago was this?
This is 22 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I'd have people come to the house, they'd come upstairs, come into my bedroom, I'd have adjusting equipment, whatever in there. And I started taking care of people out of there because I wasn't licensed yet. I wasn't taking any money. At one point I come down, my mom's pouring iced tea for 6 people in my living room. That night my dad's like, well, what's going on here? You don't have your license, you're not... But that's how I got started. I mean, I just started taking care of people, and then once I had to open my doors, we were cranking from day one. And so it was a great way to start too, because there was no money dynamic. It was just kind of like probably the old days where, I took care of them and they, make me cookies or bake me bread or something. So it was fun. It was a great way to start.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're a self-proclaimed serial self-experimenter. What does that mean?
All I wanted to do is be healthier. So the best way to to learn is to try. And so I test theories all the time. I have since I was little. So if I hear something like Zig Ziglar said, I remember hearing him saying, help enough people get what they want in life and you'll get whatever you want. Yeah. And so I tried it, man. I tried it and it worked. So yeah, I test things on myself, different diets, different biohacks. I test everything, theories, philosophies. I try it and see if they work. So
like probably since the pandemic and quarantine, I've always, like you, have consumed a lot of podcasts, videos, articles, and all those things. But one of the reasons why I love your Friday findings is because you do research the healthiest, happiest, and most successful people on the planet. When did that start? Like, did you grow up with that mindset?
I did, man.
Did you wake up one day with a little pot belly, like I didn't realize, I can't live like this?
No, from early on, I was intrigued with success and successful people. I always, not just who succeeded and who failed, but in success, like who the super successful and regular successful. I mean, I was intrigued with it. So I started studying people a long time ago. And what was interesting is what I found is a lot of people were successful in one area, but a disaster in another. And so they'd have a great business, but their marriage was a disaster, or they were super active in their church and spiritual, like warrior, but they didn't have two pennies to rub together.
Yeah.
Or they were, had a great family and great family life, but they were out of shape and had health issues. So I kind of had the idea that you could have it all. And what I found with health and why I got into health and wellness is because at the foundation of all of that was health. Because no matter what else you did, if your health was gone, it didn't matter how much money you had, it didn't matter how good your businesses were, how good your relationships were, if you didn't have your health. And so at a young age, it struck me that has to be primary. Because if you don't have your health, it didn't matter what else you have.
And so, define health for us. Because sometimes people just think that, you busted out 3 miles this morning.
Right. But health my whole deal is health is so much bigger than whatever, a six-pack ab or eating a salad. It's about the whole thing, your quality of your relationships. Do you love your work? Do you have a strong sense of purpose? Do you feel connected? It's bigger. And really, it boils down to kind of being the best version of you. So for me, I said that my whole purpose was, what's the best version of me possible? And so that was cool because if you become a golfer, you don't try to be better than Tiger Woods. You just try to be the best golfer you can be. And I know that sounds kind of hokey, but it's what's the best version of myself? And not just in sports or in business, but in relationships and all that. So the wellness for me is what's the best version of you possible? Right. And it's not in just one area, because there's a lot of people out there that are fitness models, but they're depressed or their relationships are terrible. And that's not wellness.
So, and that's why, listen, the cool thing is I know you personally, besides professionally. I've been a patient of yours, or I am a patient of yours, and socially and friends. And the thing that impresses me more than anything is you are always positive, right? And that's not easy, especially in the current situation. So, first, what do you recommend for people right now to either avoid or do more of or whatever? Because even the most positive people are struggling or on a roller coaster, that we're not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel of this pandemic. Is there anything you recommend? First,
I'm always suspicious of somebody that's positive all the time. So, I have my moments, right? You have to blow up at yourself. You have to, so it's not an all the time thing, but I tend to walk into situations and leave kind of the baggage at the door. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Like somebody brought cookies to my office. They said, I know you don't eat these kind of cookies. I eat this stuff. I go, I eat it when it's here. I just try not to have it here. But, there's a great quote from Norman Cousins. He wrote Anatomy of an Illness, and basically about laughter and healing and attitude and healing. And it's one of my favorite quotes of all time. It's accept the verdict, defy the sentence. And so right now, the verdict is the verdict, right? We are in a situation you can't bury your head in the sand and say it's not happening, but what it means to us. So it's what does it mean to you? Because right now there's going to be people that business-wise explode, right? Or they're going to I love the conference title, Reimagine. We have to reimagine. And this is going to work. We're going to work through this, and we're going to emerge, and there's going to be people left behind and people that are busting at the seams because they see not capitalizing on the bad stuff, but opportunity and how to serve people better. So, Good to Great. You read the book Good to Great.
Yeah.
In that book, he has Stockdale Paradox.
Yeah, love that.
So that's perfect for right now. And he said, this is good because you were talking about being positive. He said, he was the longest held captive, highest ranking officer in Vietnam.
Vietnam War, yeah.
And they asked him, they said, what was the difference? He said, well, the first prisoners to perish were the optimists.
Right.
And at first I was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
That's crazy. And he said, because they said, hey, I'm going to be out by Christmas, and Christmas would come and go. And then we're going to be out by Easter, and Easter would come and go. And they ended up dying of like a broken heart.
Right.
And so like right now, but he said he survived because he knew, he recognized the situation for as bad as it was. But he said, I will see my family again. So he kept that at a distance, but he knew he was going to go through a lot of bad stuff. So right now, if you're going week to week, say, hey, next week it's going to be better. No, you got to look long term. We're going to emerge from this, no question, but we're going to go through some ups and downs in the meantime. And so you want to be optimistic, but not an optimist. And so right now, and you can't make excuses, because right now I have patients that'll say, I can't wait for the gym to open back up. Like, well, you know what? You can do push-ups, sit-ups, you know what I mean? Or there's so many excuses you can make. And so I just say, if you want something bad enough, you figure out a way to do it. And right now, you can still figure out opportunities to do things. Especially with this podcast and things. How cool is it that you can still do with Zoom and things like that? And you could say, well, we got to put it on hold, but you're making it happen. So
as long as I've known you, you've always, been, again, positive, in great shape, taking care of yourself, besides successful businesses. Is there anything you had to do more of or less of, like during this pandemic, to make sure you didn't go into the black hole?
My thing was because there's a lot of misinformation. So for me, I avoid the news because there's so much misinformation. So I had to control kind of more of the emotional stuff, which is the frustration, because people see things or they hear things and it gets misrepresented. And so they're taking this information as gold and it's not accurate. And so that was the toughest thing for me. So when we hear information and people would tell me stuff they heard or they read and it's just inaccurate, my thing is not to just go, they're wrong, this is right. You don't want to be the one that's, acts like they're right so often or knows so much. But there's just, I just wanted the people see things for what it was. And so I don't try to prove myself right. I want to know the truth. So I took a deep dive into this to really understand what it was and remain anchored to what I know to be true about health and wellness. And that this, for the first 2 weeks, I did think it was going to be a big deal, or we didn't know. Well, now we have a lot more information, and we realize that, it's not what we thought it was. It's real, but so just not to get sucked into this, to the negativity of it and the doomsday of it. Because as bad as it is, there's a lot of good things going on right now.
The sensationalism of the
headline news. Yeah. And so, there are so many good things. Like a patient said to me the other day, they said, but one thing that concerns me is that, 50% of these cases they don't even know they're sick. Because what does the news do? They goes, listen, they present that. It's like this. I said, listen to what you just said. That this is virus. 50% of the people don't even know they're sick. That's like unbelievable. That's all. And she goes, well, wait a minute. Yeah, you're right. So it's just looking at it in a way that isn't sensationalized and blown up in the media. And they want to prolong this, and we're not getting facts. So that I had to control the, jumping on and creating a heavily emotional video to say, it's bigger than it is, you know what I mean? And make people, I wanted to calm people down.
Right. So let's go into it. What is your opinion on, the COVID and where it really is compared to what we're hearing?
So, what I hear a lot of people say now is they start their sentence with, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but, and then they throw out a conspiracy theorist. So, and a lot of them, you can go down those rabbit holes. So the bottom line is, it's not as bad as we thought. The death rate is significantly lower than the numbers they were throwing out. It's, kids are pretty almost exempt from bad stuff. That's awesome. It's not like a flesh-eating bacteria where, so, and the numbers are coming down and you're going to see surges, but the way viruses work is they have to run their course. And so somebody the other day said, we just need to wear our masks until it goes away. Well, it's not going, everything we're doing right now is to prolong it, but not eliminate it. It has to run its course. So when people go back to college, we're going to see probably an uptick, but These are healthy people that'll get the virus. They may not even know they have it. They won't end up in the hospital. It'll run its course. And the sooner that happens, the sooner it kind of goes away. But I think we're stuck with like a flu season, cold season, and probably a coronavirus type season. But the same people that had to be protected in the past have to be protected now. They just like the flus, but the average person is going to be okay. I mean, most people don't even go to the doctor for this thing. So that's good news.
Yeah.
And the numbers are much lower than we thought that they would be. So
what's your best recommendation to prevent or reduce the risk?
So that's the other thing that drives me crazy, right? You see a list, CDC, or you see Dr. Fauci talking about the 5 most important things you can do, and it's, wear a mask, wash your hands, sanitize, social distance, things like that. So the most at-risk person is an immune-compromised person. We know that. So that stands to reason that the strongest immune system are the least vulnerable for problems. So the key should be boost your immune system as much as you can. That's the best thing you can do. So even if you think all those other things that they recommend are important, there's nothing more important than boosting the immune system. And that never even gets talked about. So what you eat and your exercise and managing your stress levels all have a huge impact on your immune function. And so that's something you can control. The biggest concern for me is that this COVID stuff, it's reinforcing this. And you see this when you're coaching people. It's an outside-in thing. Like viruses, we're avoiding the virus. We've been around and we will be around viruses and bacteria forever. And more stuff's to come. Even if we got rid of COVID right now, there's something on the horizon. So we can't control that, but we control this, right? And so I always say, if you're going to fight a battle and you don't have the weapons to win, you would back up and retreat and build up your fortress as strong as you can. And that's kind of wellness, right? Building this up. Because the stronger this is, the more resistant you are, the less complications you'll have. And you have control over that. You can't avoid the virus. You can't avoid it. So anticipate getting exposed to it. Make yourself as healthy as you can. That lowers your risk. You have less complications. That's the healthiest people will have the less trouble with this, as well as any other condition or health-related issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And the thing I think I'm curious about your take on is, what do you think the 3 or 4 things, maybe there's more, that people need to be doing right now for mental health, so they don't get sucked into the woe is me, I don't see light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, is it getting up every morning, working out, eating right? I mean, you obviously hear those things, but what's your...
Those are for sure, and they don't have to go extreme. Everybody wants to go extreme. Like it's doing better, right? Eat less processed foods. Sugar is a big one. I mean, people talk about sugar, but sugar crushes the immune system. And so if you can lower your sugar intake, that's going to help. We know now vitamin D, and it has been shown to directly impact the effect COVID has on people. Vitamin D, that's easy. It's inexpensive. I would say turn off the news, because people, when they're watching the news, they'll have this fear response as if they're actually under fire.
Yeah.
And their physiology will change. And nothing's happening. They're sitting in their house. So, and when you have that stress response, your immune system does come down. So you have to believe, first of all, right? Believe that there's an end in sight. Believe that you prevail, or believe that we'll come out of this doing okay. Because if you don't, you're going to be in trouble. And we will do that. So why get caught up in the stress response? Because that stress response is something I've done talks on, I'm intrigued with. Because when you get stressed, your body goes through certain physiological...
All right, so if I'm stressed out, work, kids, all the above, relationship, is there something you recommend, like at that moment, to first reduce so I don't react, say something I shouldn't?
So easier said than done, right, to take that minute. But I would say maybe not at that moment, but exercise for sure. I mean, exercise resets the stress response.
Do you meditate?
Some meditation, but not hardcore. I'm not good with, I've tried meditating, I fall asleep. So guided meditation, and they got apps for that. That's good in the mornings, but it's just quick stuff. Stuff.
Do you have routines in the morning to front load your day?
So I start early on 3 days a week. I don't do a ton those mornings, but I'll get up, do some stretching. So I've taken a deeper dive into breathing right now. So Wim Hof and some of this breathing stuff. So I start my morning with some breathing routines. That all resets the physiology. I visualize, not hardcore, but I was journaling. I don't do that all the time, but I see the day for what I think I want it to look like before I start it. But nothing super regimented, because I think when you get super regimented, then you lose the kind of the essence. Then it creates another stressor, right? Oh, I got to meditate. It's bizarre. So I don't get hung up on hardcore routines. I just make sure everything's in line with what I believe it should be, and if something's not going right, I try to change it.
And something you said earlier about what you do or what you stopped doing was, headline news. And I have a client, he's a CEO, and know him pretty well. And he's like you and I, or I like to think he's always positive, no matter what, he's facing. Recession, all the, we all have our external and internal things, and he's always been positive. But he said to me that this pandemic was wearing on him, and he was, having a hard time keeping his spirits up. And he did something that totally fixed it. And it's kind of what you said. He went on his own devices, computer, iPad, phone, and went to parental controls and blocked himself from headline news.
Perfect.
And he said within 48 hours, he realized how much better he felt, but he didn't realize why.
Right.
And it was like he took a pill. And he was just, had to bounce back. And all of a sudden, it dawned on him that he hadn't, they did that 2 days ago. And I mean, it's crazy.
It's that powerful. And it didn't cost him anything, right? It was simple.
No side effects.
And if you do a study, it probably has the same impact as a prescribed, like, antidepressant. You know what I mean? So it's that powerful. But here's what happens. But people don't, it's almost like too simple. But the solutions, like you walk into places, they want these big, elaborate solutions. You're like, listen, how about this? And it's simple.
Yeah.
And it isn't usually the big things that make the difference. So that's perfect. I mean, and if you were getting good news and you were getting something that really mattered, like how long until the tornado hits, we need to know that. But it's not helping you get through your day.
The numbers are never going to go down.
No.
They can only go up, right? So,
Right. Exactly. Right. And so, and it was number of deaths, right? So now it's number of cases. People go, oh, what about the cases? Listen, cases mean very little to me as long as the hospitals can keep up, and most people aren't even going, and more healthy people are getting the virus. So the death rate's going down. So cases don't mean a lot to me, because the sooner more cases hit, the sooner the virus peters out. And I know some people disagree with that, but you need good information too. There should be, like, if you had a different kind of a channel, that's why podcasts and videos and audiobooks, that's what I listen to, and you listen to, and he's listening to.
Yeah.
So that getting rid of the news would probably be number one, because you're not only getting hysteria, but you're getting not accurate information.
All right. So besides what not to do and news and social media and what helps you stay so positive and amped up? Because we're always texting each other, great podcast, you'll love this, you'll love this. What is it that you think you do, besides probably the way you were raised and, good parenting and all that, but what is it on a daily basis that keeps Paul closer to his A game than normal?
I mean, I feel constantly blessed to be in the situation I'm in, because I could do something different at any time. So we've got a ton of opportunity. I remember one day I was complaining about something, and there was a story that came on the radio. It was about a lady, different country. She was trying to get her 2 kids to a refugee camp because there was no water, and they had to walk 100 miles, something like that. And somewhere along the way, she had to decide which child she couldn't take with her. And literally, that story resonates in my head like all the time. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, and you're complaining about traffic or something.
So I just feel like...
All right, so what is that, gratitude?
Gratitude for sure.
Okay.
Knowing that my reality, I can change my reality, right? If I'm not happy with something, I had the ability to change it.
Yeah.
And I know that's...
if you're 5 pounds overweight, you control that.
You control most of what's going on.
Right.
And even if you don't control certain things, we had housework done. And sometimes when you're in a situation like that, like in a bad relationship, you break the bond. Well, some of these things you can't break the bond yet. You just want to finish so that you can break the bond.
Right.
So you break bonds, or you choose to put yourself in certain environments, or you don't. And if I don't do a lot of stuff, I don't want to do. And it's selfish. It's not mean. It's just, I've been asked to serve on this or that. No. I mean, because unless I'm passionate enough about it, because you're not going to get me at 100%, and I don't want to do that every week. So I just pick and choose what I want to do, and if something's not right, I try to change it. And that's maybe to a fault, right? I mean, I had this vision where...
No, but I think no is important.
Yeah.
Not in a customer service standpoint, but in life, because, you know, we know what we're good at. And, you know, I'm very narrow and deep just because I'm not that talented. So I can't be wide and shallow. I need to be narrow and deep, which means I say no to a lot of opportunities and a lot of other things just because if I can't, you know, be good at, or if it's going to take away from my core.
Right.
You know, I definitely agree with that.
And people do that a lot. You know, someone said it best to me because they said with your practice, you could double your income by adding this or doing that. And what happens is, and someone said it once, it's not new, but why be a jack of all trades when you could be a master of one? And I wanted to be the master of one. I didn't want to do, like, I didn't want to be good at everything. I wanted to be great at one thing. So in chiropractic, you want a chiropractor, hopefully I'm the one to go to.
Right.
You know, if somebody wants like acupuncture or another thing, go. Here's the best that does this. Here's the best that does that. And you have those resources. And that's my service part.
Yeah.
I'm helping you by pointing in the right direction. People say, well, that's crazy. You're leaving all that money on the table. And fortunately, I saw through that. So early on, too, I realized, you know, everybody likes money and financial security, but, you know, pick up a People magazine and you'll realize that money and fame don't do it, right? Watch Behind the Music, right? You realize that it blows up at some point. And so fortunately, early on, I realized that, too, that it was bigger than just money. But what's cool is if you do the right things and do it the way, you know, that financial stuff comes secondary.
Yeah.
So,
you might have answered this. What's your single biggest biohack?
So, you know, I'm big on the whole primitive or healthy ancestors. Health is pretty simple. We've complicated it. But at the same time, we live in crazy times, so we need other things to kind of help us along. So I've got all kinds of, you know, I've got infrared sauna, I've got whole body cryotherapy, I've got a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, I've got a vibe plate, I've got all
in your
these
business.
in my business,
right.
But I had them at my house
Okay.
first, for the most part, just to help boost my system, to how can I perform better, think clearer, be better.
Yeah.
But the best is, and it's the simplest, is, you've done it, right? Intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
That's easy. Our ancestors did it, not because they chose to. They did it because they didn't have food. But that's one of the best, most impactful, cheapest, easiest biohacks someone can do is intermittent fasting.
I agree. And what's funny is, first, how our mind is, you know, I noticed this. So whenever I see someone that loses a lot of weight, I'm always like, oh, what do you? And they may say paleo. I say, well, tell me about that. And as they list what it, I'll find something of why I can't do it.
Right.
No. I love cheese. I can't give up cheese. Or I love eggs, or I don't know, whatever it is. And then I ask people about, meeting so many people that lost so much weight, and I kept on hearing intermittent fasting. Well, tell me about that. You know what? You don't eat until 12. Oh my God, I love breakfast. I gotta have breakfast. So I eliminated it. And then I kept on meeting more and more people. And I said, I gotta give this thing a try. And first I was shocked at how easy it was to make it to noon.
Yeah.
And the effect I've had, I've been doing it for almost, a year. I started last November in the toughest time, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New
Right.
Year's, and I made it through that. And, I sleep better. I feel great. I don't, I thought it was age. I needed to, I wanted to take a nap every afternoon. Now I just feel so much better. And, I've dropped 20 pounds and I'm still on it. I mean, it's just, so as intermittent fasting isn't a diet.
No,
right?
not at all.
Yeah, but I've always eaten really healthy, but I was out eating my burn rate.
Right.
And so that helped me, I'm an advocate. I love intermittent.
Well, with your schedule, how cool is it that now you don't have to make breakfast?
Right.
You don't have to clean it up.
Right.
You don't have to think about it.
Right.
So, and most people don't miss it. And our ancestors didn't eat breakfast. I mean, you didn't have food around. You know what I mean? They just didn't. They didn't have 3 meals a day. So
I'm such a raving testimonial. I'm not an expert, other than it's worked for me, and it's the first thing that wasn't a quick. Lose 10 pounds for your high school reunion,
Right.
But then you gain 12 pounds the week after because you can't. I've been able to maintain this for, almost 12 months now. And, I haven't gone back up. And to me, I hope this is a permanent thing. It's not one of those things where I had to give up all the luxuries of life.
Right.
And then I'm going to, come back and binge.
because you can still have 2 great meals.
Right.
And it's one thing. And the average person can do it. It doesn't cost anything, like
Yeah.
we talked about. And when you realize that you can miss a meal, the other cool thing about that is you if you're running through an airport, say, oh, I'm hungry, I gotta get something. You can be like, listen, I don't need that food. So you're not tied to food when you realize that. And I've done 2-3 day fasts. I mean, water only fast. So that's the next thing you can dabble with is do like a 3-day water only fast. I mean, that'll kind of rock you a little bit. And it's not bad because after the first day, your body kicks into a different mode.
Yeah.
And you actually think clear. I mean, our hunter-gatherer ancestors couldn't, when they were getting hungry, they couldn't get foggy. I mean, they had to catch the rabbit, right? And so, you got hunters now, they'll intermittent fast before they hunt because they feel like they're more alert.
Right.
I purposely didn't eat even lunch before this because I didn't want my body processing food. I wanted to be clearer thinking. It's the simplest, most effective biohack. And what actually happens on a cellular level is awesome. I mean, it takes bad old cells and breaks them down and pulls the important pieces out of those and uses them to build new cells, so it kills cancer. So, I mean, there's a lot of things it does that it's remarkable.
So, people listening are like, all right, he's a doctor. He's had, some nice things at his house that we could never have. Like he has a chamber, the cryotherapy, blah, blah, blah. So I'd be positive too if I was a doctor and had all these things. The interesting thing about you is, it always hasn't come easy. I know, because you've shared with me, that, you got in some trouble when you were young.
Yeah. Better bring that up, huh?
And so, what, maybe it was just typical juvenile, stuff, but was there anything that, straightened you out, or was it just maturity?
Yeah, so a couple things. One,
I remember you're saying your mom was like, wanted you out of the house, basically.
Well, my mom actually probably the biggest influencer in my whole life. So she actually, the one thing she did, my dad wanted me out of the house.
Oh, you did?
My mom, she was kind of the one that just never let me believe I was that idiot. Like, hey, that's not like you, or, you're better than that. I mean, that really, so I never believed I was a jackass. And I wasn't robbing old ladies. I was doing dumb stuff, but I get caught, right? And I think I told you guys that maybe that night I was at your house, but I was sitting in Akron at the Juvenile Detention Center.
How old were you?
Probably 15.
Okay.
And the lady there, we had the judge and my parents, right? And I'm sitting here, my parents are here and there, and she's begging them to leave me there for like.
Your mom is, or the judge?
The judge is.
The judge
begging my parents, saying, leave him here.
He
needs to stay. He makes bad decisions. He did blah blah blah, and she's going on, and I'm thinking, I can't stay here,
You just watched Shawshank.
No, I just heard about a kid getting put in there the day before for killing his parents or something. So I'm like, listen, I'm an idiot.
Right.
So she said something that rocked me, and she said, she looked at my parents and said, Paul has a decision-making problem. Paul makes bad decisions. And I'm sitting there and I thought, gosh, she's right. I make bad decisions. And I thought about it. I thought, man, this getting in trouble is exhausting. And I literally thought of it, and I may have said this to you before, but it was like superhero powers where I could use this energy for good or for evil.
Right.
And literally, I'd like to say I never got in trouble again after that, but it wasn't quite like that. But it was a light bulb where I said, you know what, I could probably put this energy into something that was good. And that's kind of what I did. Because if you look at like prisoners, I mean, they're like making tattoo guns out of a battery and a paper clip. I mean, they're smart. They're just their attention or their decision making or their focus is in the wrong place. So that for me was a big deal. So because she wanted to keep me there, and I was like, no, this is nuts.
Yeah.
So, but no, it was good. I will say this: even when we got back in the car, and before my dad starts the car, he looks back, he says, "Whew. Man, she wanted to keep you, didn't she?" He was even rocked by it. So fortunately that didn't happen, and life went on, but that was it. I mean, literally realizing that I had a choice.
I think that's important, for people to hear. Even when you told me about it, when we had dinner, struggling with my boys at times.
Right.
I'm thinking, are they going to be like this? And then when you hear your story, you're like, all right. And I remember my story. But you need to hear that to say, all right, this is just a moment. This is just immaturity. This is, poor decision making. So a few years ago, you lose your beautiful wife, Geraldine, to cancer. Mm-hmm. And she was amazing. You guys were amazing together. You have 3 beautiful kids. So, that's another impressive thing, because I'm sure, it was tempting for you to want to ball up, say, woe is me. This life isn't fair. Right. Why me? Why, you're young, she's young, you have three little younger kids, and you turn into a single parent, basically overnight. How did you manage not to, I'm sure you had your moments, but, to stay on this extremely positive track, and your kids are so positive and just great energy and all those things. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, bombshell in my life, but from my whole life of reading the books and listening to the stuff, it's like training, right? So you train almost for that stuff. So again, I had a choice to make. And I always say, I would have said before, like, come on, you got a choice to make. So for at least a little while, you don't make a choice, right? If you're hit with something, you don't make a choice right away. But there's a choice. There's a time where you have to sit back and say, what does this mean to me? And for one, back to gratitude, I was super grateful for the life I had. A lot of people don't have what I had. They never experienced that. So I was grateful for that. But I look at my whole life like this book and of chapters. And I want to have this great epic life, right? And some chapters are good, and I guess some chapters are bad. And so that was a bad chapter. But I know that as I turned that page, I literally had a blank page. And I know this sounds like rah-rah motivational stuff, but this is how I thought of it. What am I going to write in that next chapter? Is it doom and gloom, or the world, God hates me, or life isn't fair? Or is it gratitude for what I had, and move contribution and growth and lead by example for my kids, and so they can see somebody be as resilient as maybe I've been able to be. But it wasn't that's then, this is now, it's all part of my story. So this next chapter is like, what do I want it to do? And so it wasn't, it's devastation, it's despair, it's sadness, but it can't paralyze me. And so, and the kids did great, because when Geraldine was diagnosed, she didn't say, woe is me, doom and gloom, life isn't fair. She said, all right, here's what I've got going on. Let's go. And so she did the best she could with what she had and maintained an incredible attitude. And the way the kids responded was exactly the way she responded. And they, it was terrible, devastation. I feel terrible for my kids, they get shafted. And I don't have to, I'm not telling you like this, you don't know this. You've been through similar situations. So they have been really great, like not a woe is me. They just said, okay, this is what happened in my life. Here, where do we go? What do we do from now? Moving forward. And so that's and my story builds on that story. So, I look at it like, how do I make it better? How do I make my story better? How does it keep building and get stronger and better?
Having similar, the way I see from afar yours is, how lucky were you to be the one to be married to Geraldine, right? And to have 3 kids with her, versus how unlucky you are to have lost her. Of all the people that could have been married to her, all the people that could have had a family together, there's billions of people.
Right.
Paul Bizjak was the one, and that's otherwise life isn't it isn't fair.
And that's where the gratitude outweighs that devastation. Like, I have to be grateful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that is, so the gratitude and how, and what I, that in anything, like right now, what people have had in their past, or it's realizing what you had or what you have is critical. Because you could say, woe is me, but you forget all the stuff that you've had or you've done. So, and back to the stock sale thing, I believe too that there was going to be good coming. Do you know what I mean? That couldn't be, I believe when somebody says the best is behind me, I think that's when they're doomed. I was talking to a guy one time and he said, man, how about high school? Best 4 years of my life. And I thought my heart literally
right.
And so I and it's not how do you have better than that, but how does it build and my life get better? Right. And and so I've had blessings come into my life since then that have been, it's like, man, all right, why me? I could say why me, but why me? You've met Lana, and so I've had this, I as much as is bad, and I have so much good. So I try to focus on the good.
In our personal lives and our professional life, we're talking about the pandemic and, how it's affecting our businesses. And I say, I've said this several times recently, if I'm fortunate enough to be in business another 20 or 30 years, there's going to be, several more crises, right? Recessions, whatever those things may be. And, and the same thing, and this may be a little twisted, but in my personal life, there's going to be, bad things.
Right.
If I'm fortunate to live, 20, 30, 40 more years, I sometimes picture the worst things that can happen, almost to, mentally prepare, like, how would I handle that? And I know that's twisted.
No,
but, we can't afford, I don't think anybody can afford to ball up. I mean, you would have bailed on your three children.
Right, 100%.
And they couldn't have dad do that at the time, or your employees of your businesses, or your thousands of patients,
right,
and all that. And so,
yeah, and if you
on you.
I wrote a blog or an article one time called "Stop Being Surprised." You know what I mean? Like we get blown out of the way, so you got to anticipate some of that stuff. It's like a guy, and I'm not a big golfer, but if they're golfing, and I remember my buddy throwing his club. I'm like, did you think that was going? I haven't seen you hit a good shot yet. Are you still surprised you can't hit the ball? So you got to anticipate those things and bounce. And this is a perfect time to see that. I mean, with this COVID, I mean, there's going to be people that. I mean, at what point do you go, okay, it's bad, but what are you going to do?
Right.
So it's getting back up and getting after it.
So you are presenting at this year's Customer Service Revolution, the virtual one, which I love.
I'm excited. Thanks for the invite.
I'm so excited. I mean, again, listening to you, reading your stuff, every time I have a conversation, it could even be a text, I get pumped up.
Good.
So that's why I was like, and I believe, your focus in the health, mental, emotional, physical, psychological is so needed today. For people who are typically positive, or people who may, be on the roller coaster in good times and bad times, it's definitely a tipping point for them. So tell our listeners, a little bit about what they can expect to hear in your presentation in October.
I just sat back and thought, what's the most impactful thing I can tell them in a short time? And it turns out it's going to be something that I learned probably 20 years ago, and I'm not trying to tease it, but I'll wait for it because it's a simple sentence that changed my whole direction. I studied health and wellness my whole life, but this 20 years ago, somebody said something and it rocked me. It changed everything, made wellness a lot easier. It made the decision making on what to do and what to follow easy. And so I'm going to share that for sure, because I want to take people and, I'm not going to what to eat and exercise. Those things it has to be something that rocks their whole paradigm. And like we talked about earlier, first of all, the definition of wellness. I'll talk about how you redefine wellness. And it applies to everybody, because wellness, if somebody wants to make more money or be more productive or be a better leader, that all gets better if they are healthier and more well. And so, I'm going to talk about those things, and it'll be simple but powerful.
And the title?
What did I title it?
It's in you.
It's in you.
Uncovering
I almost put you.
I
almost put you. You already know enough. Yes, it's in you. Yeah, because that's what it's in you, right? It's health,
the title
happiness.
It's in you, uncovering the true health and the life you were designed to live.
Yeah.
I love that.
And that's my whole goal. What's the life I'm designed to live? So that's what I want people to get a taste of. And when people taste that, it gets exciting. And that's when they start making better decisions, because they can start to see themselves as a better version of themselves.
Right.
And go from there. So
it's funny. I get a lot of people that reach out to me that are exploring the, speaking, full-time speaking or book writing. And, they're currently, in a corporate job and, they're doing really well. But I'm like, I'm always like, man, you gotta, this is a great opportunity. It's so funny. I've never had someone who's a super successful doctor, entrepreneur of multiple businesses that I'm like, you gotta quit doing that stuff. And you gotta write your book. You gotta start speaking full time.
I know.
But as much as you're helping so many of your patients and the lives of them, I feel like the whole world needs to hear more from Dr. Paul Bizjak. I love your blogs. I think you're going to explode as a speaker. I'm trying to get you to commit right now to that you're going to get your book out in the next 12 months because you just have so much wealth of knowledge and experience on this topic.
Good. I will. I get it because it'll be run every time I see you saying, "How's your book going?" No doubt. And I feel like I'm bubbling inside, and the one-on-one with patients is great, super gratifying. But I do feel, and that's why I love opportunities like this, and you invite me to speak because I feel like if I can get to more people with the book and with the speaking. I do feel like
I never thought I'd tell a doctor he's wasting his talents.
Right. I mean, I think I could do both, but but I do. I feel like it. So I appreciate the opportunities because I do. I mean, I feel like that's where I'm headed for sure.
All right, I got the final rapid round, and then we want to talk about where people can find out more about you. And I know you may have heard these before, but these are tough questions.
Okay.
If you answer them wrong, they could mean that you can't run for political office someday or whatever. So if you want to tap out, you can.
Okay.
Okay. Superman or Batman?
Superman.
Okay, good.
Yeah, for sure.
DH or let the pitcher hit?
I like the idea of them all batting, but man, when you watch a pitcher hit, it's bad. It's uncomfortable.
It's bad.
So for the specialization of it, I'd say probably.
I like the strategy of the game more, but you're right. No one wants to see that.
It's hard to watch. It's like me up there, right? So.
All right, this is a good one for you. So it's your last meal. What I mean by that is not your favorite meal. It's, you're on the, like your parents probably thought the track you were on, right? You're on the, whatever that is, the last mile, whatever. And you can have whatever you want. You're not worried about what you're going to look like tomorrow. What is that? Because you're such a healthy eater and fitness. Is there anything your go-to that you secretly wish you could eat?
I mean, I like good food, and I mean, I eat stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like chocolate. I like that stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, steak.
There's nothing you'd order that of course, a good steak, a filet.
I'd probably, if I needed something that you wouldn't think I'd get, it'd probably be like hot apple pie with vanilla ice cream on top.
Nice.
That'd be good.
All right, good. This is a question I love asking. You actually teed it up perfectly. So, your life is a book, right? What's the title of the chapter you're living right now?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's time. It's time.
It's time.
It's
All
time.
right,
It's
love
time.
it.
No, literally, it's stop talking, start doing. It's time. It's time to shift gears and pull the trigger, get the book done, and do some other things. So,
snooze or get right out of bed?
So it's funny because I was just talking with Lana last week, and I said I used to never hit snooze. The reason I hit snooze now, not all the time,
really,
but I don't go back to sleep. I hit it because I'll start to do some breathing stuff, and I'm afraid I might fall back asleep. So I hit snooze 50% of the time, but not to go back to sleep, more just to kind of chill and not just jump out of bed. So.
And, a new one that I always think about, and I tease people, you're at the pool. You slowly walk in or jump in?
Jump in.
Yeah.
I'm not a good.
Not tiptoe.
No.
Right.
And that's good with other areas here.
Right.
Too.
Right. Exactly.
Just do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm good with that.
Good. All right. Paul Bizjak, how do people follow you, learn more about you? Friday findings.
You know, it's funny because unlike probably a lot of people here, I can't talk about get my book. I don't have a program.
We'll be the first to
announce.
You know
what? That Friday's findings is one of the funnest things.
And we will have that in the show notes, a link to it.
If they subscribe, they get it every Friday. It's 3 things. And I kind of picked it up from Tim Ferriss. I just love the nugget.
Yeah, so do I.
What people would ask, what do you do? And I wanted them to get kind of into the mindset of the wellness, not just what you eat. I wanted them to get mistakes I made, a book I read, a product I'm using.
I just read, last Friday's, and it was, the Les Brown podcast, which I immediately tagged, and then your COVID, rants.
Yeah, a little bit, right? So it's just, it's week to week, so it's real time,
right.
And it gives me I can get more information to more people that way. So it's fun. It's not always wellness related. I throw some dumb stuff on there sometimes, but that is wellness, right? It's having fun. It's, like I said, mistakes I made, but it's just getting into the mindset of kind of a wellness focused person. and beyond just what to eat and what exercise to do. So,
yeah. All right. So in our show notes, you'll be able to see a link to Friday's findings that Dr. Paul produces every Friday. It's awesome. It's short. There's some great nuggets, as well as you get to watch him speak at the 2020 Virtual Customer Service Revolution. You will hear it first here. We'll have him back on when his book is ready to launch, hopefully in the next 12 to 18 months. Doc Paul, it was so cool to finally get you as my guest. I really do look up to you, and
I appreciate that.
You've been
I'm flattered.
Someone that does it right.
But remember, I came to you first when I asked you about book writing. We were at wrestling practice because I knew you had the book, so I asked you about writing a book. Of course, that was several years ago now.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so let me ask you a quick question. Your best book. I know you always ask good questions. Your most gifted book.
I think The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Love it. Easy read, but super powerful.
And what I get out of it, I even use it in customer service. I say, whether you do or you don't, it really doesn't matter today. Whether we go have a couple donuts, or I have a couple donuts, or I don't, right? Or I go have a salad. Doesn't matter today, right? I'm not going to get home. Claudia's not going to look at me and say, what'd you have for lunch? Right. Probably not even going to weigh much different tonight. Whether I save, 5% of my paycheck this week for 401k or whatever, that retirement is, or I don't, there's not going to be a noticeable difference when I look at my, amount. And so I go back to, getting the run in or you don't, getting the, whether we train our newest employees on customer service, we don't. Sales aren't going to be any different. Right. And that's the frustrating thing. We're in such a quick, rich, .com. I want to lose 10 pounds. Right. I need, as a business, I need to, our shareholders, our if we're a public company, whatever it is, they're demanding. So we go acquire a fledgling competitor, or we slash prices or lay off, 100, people. Right. And all those are quick, rich results. But in 6 months, we're in a worse shape. Right. Right. And it's the Atkins diet where I lose 10 pounds this month, but I gain 12 pounds the next month. And, but the compound effect just teaches you, if we make the right decisions, every day, every hour, whatever that looks like, all of a sudden in 6 months, it's a freight train. It's the momentum.
And those are the hardest things to do because you don't see the direct, the immediate return.
Right.
But that's good.
What's your favorite book?
You know what? If I had to recommend one, it's probably for self-help and personal growth would be 7 Habits. Yeah. I like Compound Effect, and I've given that, but 7 Habits just of highly effective people just kind of, that whole begin with the end in mind, right? So
I love that.
So you're thinking ahead with that Compound Effect. So that's probably the biggest one I've recommended if someone asks. But hey, and I know you guys are doing a lot of good things, like with the Believe in Dreams, and my daughters go to your salons, so anyway, I appreciate it. I'm grateful for our friendship.
We're so excited to have our audience hear your presentation in a few weeks, and I want to thank all the revolutionaries for another incredible episode at the Customer Service Revolution.
Be sure to catch more from Dr. Paul Bizjak during the Customer Service Revolution Conference beginning October 1st. Tickets for the month-long virtual event are available at customerservicerevolution.com. I hope you enjoyed our time with Dr. Paul Bizjak. Be sure to subscribe to the Customer Service Revolution on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And let us know in a review what you enjoyed about this week's episode. We'd love to read your comments. Thanks so much for listening and for being part of the revolution.